Does God exist? Does God still interact with us today?
Here's the good news. God is alive and showing up in people's lives today in the 21st century. These are the stories of how he reveals himself and is working in the lives of real people through the miracles, the mayhem, and the mundane of life.
Hello and welcome. I am Hollis Moore.
And I am Lori Spiker. We are two friends whose faith journeys have become intertwined as we felt called to share God with the world in a unique and different way. So here's our podcast.
By sharing people's stories, we transform how we relate to each other and how we relate to God. Be prepared to experience the unconditional love of God in new and unexpected ways. And be prepared to proclaim, "Oh my God is awesome." Welcome to the Oh My God Pod.
Hi, everyone. Gosh, wasn't Hollis's story absolutely amazing? She's one of the most exciting and incredible people that I have ever met. Welcome to part 2 of episode 1. My name is Lori Spiker. I am 42 years old. I live in Plymouth, Michigan, which is a suburb of Detroit. I have been married for 16 years to my husband, Tom. We met in college at Michigan State University here in Michigan. We moved to Denver, Colorado after college and lived there for about 10 years. And I should probably say that Hollis is from Colorado or lives in Colorado now, as you know, but her and I did not know each other at all during the time frame that I lived there. So I think that's kind of interesting as well. Tom and I have 2 boys. Their ages 11 and 13. We moved back to Michigan about 8 years ago. And people ask us all the time why on earth we would ever leave Colorado. And you would know if you've ever lived there or if you visited, you would know how absolutely amazing it is. But nonetheless, we moved back here to be near our family. I was born and raised in Michigan, and so was Tom. And so being near our family was something that was important to us, especially as our boys were growing up. My professional background is in business, specifically in the purchasing and supply chain management fields. I graduated from Michigan State with a degree in supply chain management. I previously worked in the telecommunications industry while I lived in Denver, and I currently work in the automotive industry here in the Detroit area in the purchasing and supply chain organization. Outside of work, I'm heavily involved in the anti-human trafficking movement here in the Detroit area. Over the past 5 years, I've really developed a heart and a passion for this cause, which has led me to volunteering with a few nonprofit organizations here locally in the Detroit area. And then, as I mentioned, I have 2 boys. They're 11 and 13. They're in middle school, and we are very busy with sports and extracurricular activities on the weekends and in the evenings. So my faith background goes as this. I grew up Catholic. I grew up in a Catholic household. Well, I should say my mom was very devoted and involved in our church. My dad never went to church, though, except for on the important holidays. So he would always go on Christmas and Easter. But my brother and I went to church every Sunday with my mom. My mom was in the choir. We were frequently at church, always on Sundays, and we stayed after for many kind of activities, and my mom always had to be there early, so therefore we were always there early also. I made all the sacraments. I did all the things that you're supposed to do in the Catholic religion. I would say that during my childhood up through high school, I knew about God, but I never really connected with the church or the mass or the services themselves. For me, it felt more like an obligation and just something that we were supposed to do every Sunday. So then I went away to college and, not surprisingly, fell away from church completely. It actually never even crossed my mind during that time that I was away at school that I could or should find a church to get involved with. Being connected to God in that way wasn't anything that I missed or that I even felt was missing in my own life. And looking back on it now, it's because I didn't have a personal relationship with God up until that point in my life. And so therefore, I wasn't missing anything. I didn't feel a void in that area at all. So college for me was pretty typical. I was excited to be away. I had a lot of freedom. I partied. I was on my own. I made new friends. And really, God and church, I mean, I'm, sorry to say this now, but God and church were very far from my mind and from the list of priorities that I had for myself back then. But having said that, I experienced a really devastating event when I was in college. I had a boyfriend of 2 years pass away under some really disturbing circumstances. And I do remember during that time praying constantly. And that was the first time in a long time that I thought about God, that I brought him back into my mind, that I even started praying. And I knew enough because of my upbringing to know that I was not going to get through this circumstance without praying and without God being a part of it. And so that's really where I'm grateful for the upbringing that I did have, because even though I was unplugged from God and church at that time, I always knew he was there. Like, I believed in God. That never wavered. I've always believed in God, and I knew that I could go to him and pray in times of need. But that's pretty much all that it was. It was kind of like I would only go to him when I was in trouble or I needed something. I kind of call that now like the genie in the bottle factor. Like, I would go to God when I wanted him to do something for me. So then fast forward to when I lived in Colorado. It was about 5 or so years after we had been there, and I started to feel like something was missing, like on the inside. It was like all of a sudden I was ready and I wanted to try church again. But I knew I didn't want to go to a Catholic church. At that stage in my life, I just kind of felt like I didn't want to waste my time going through the motions without feeling a connection or like a true desire to want to be there. That just didn't, that just didn't make sense to me. So now I kind of feel the need to just stop right here and kind of say, I am not at all bashing the Catholic religion, or I don't mean to talk, ill will about it at all. I'm just simply conveying to you guys what my experience was, and that it just wasn't for me. For me, I really felt God pulling me to try something different. So this, my experience and my testimony here is really just my personal journey. And then I should also add that my husband, Tom, grew up with no religion or church at all. So I knew that if I was going to have any hope of getting him to agree to go to church with me, it was going to have to be somewhere a little bit more laid back and less conservative than a Catholic church. So that's another reason why I felt like I really had to be open to trying something different. So to make a long story short, we ended up at a non-denominational church in Colorado. Some of our good friends had invited us to check it out, and it ended up being our home for the last 5 years that we lived there. We absolutely fell in love with it. Tom really liked it and felt really comfortable there. For me, it took a while to get used to, just in terms of the differences in style that I was used to. But I'll tell you that for the first time in my life, I actually wanted to go to church. Not because I felt like I should, but because I genuinely had a desire to be there every week. I felt like I was learning about God in a whole new way. And I really connected to the talks each week. They had wisdom and perspective. And it's like what I learned about God on Sunday, I actually took with me and was able to apply to the rest of my life for the rest of the week. So when we moved back to Michigan, we were on a hunt for a church home similar to what we had found back in Colorado, because our experience was so great and we had found a really good fit. So we kind of wanted to stay with the same type of church. And that's how we eventually landed where we are today. We currently attend what some would call a mega church, and it is a mega church. And let me tell you, I had a lot of hesitations about this at first. I mean, there was a band and it was really big. You could bring coffee to your seat, which I wasn't used to. And there were just so many people that you could get lost in there. And I'll be honest, I had a stereotype of mega churches in my head that I really had to kind of work through. But Tom really liked it. And there was an amazing kids program that our boys liked. They wanted to go. So we kept going. And the more that we went, the more comfortable I got, the more I felt at home and the more connected to God I felt. And that's really where my personal relationship with him started. And I can say now that being a part of the church that we're at now has completely changed my life in the best way. And my stereotype of a mega church has been demolished. In fact, it has been an absolute blessing for our family, and our experience has been so amazing. Tom and I have made so many close friends. We're involved in several ministries at church, and our boys are part of the middle school ministry. And you guys, here's how you know that you've hit the jackpot with church. When your kids don't fight you, they don't roll their eyes, and they don't complain about having to go to church, right? I think we've all have experienced this before. So our boys never argue about going to church. In fact, they've made some really great friends, and they're learning and developing their faith just as Tom and I are. And really, I never knew what it meant to have a personal relationship with God. I didn't even know the difference. I didn't even know that existed. I didn't even know that it was an option. And I've experienced God working in my life in the last 5 years in the most amazing ways. And I genuinely want that for everyone. So now we'll talk about how the podcast idea came to be in my head, parallel to what was going on in Hollis's head and her journey. So I started getting into and listening to podcasts a couple years ago. Gosh, I listened to all kinds of different hosts, all kinds of different topics. I love them. I listen to them while I'm running, while I'm getting ready for work in the morning, while I'm driving, folding laundry, you name it. I mean, podcasts are seriously the best thing ever, and they are so convenient. Well, about 6 months ago, I started having these thoughts to myself, like, I could totally do a podcast. There is not anything, there's nothing different about these people than there is about me. And this doesn't seem like rocket science. So those thoughts were sporadic at first, but then God was really nudging me because I couldn't get the thought out of my head. So now I started thinking about it more. I started daydreaming about what it would be like, and really like how fun it would be to talk to people all the time, which I love to do. I love people. I love meeting new people. And I like getting to know them and learning their story and their history. But I always dismiss those thoughts with lots of excuses like, I'm too busy. How would I possibly find the time to add this to my schedule? I kept telling myself, I wouldn't even know where to start. Like, I wouldn't even know how to even start a podcast. I am definitely not a techie person at all. You know, all those roadblocks and excuses we throw up at the first time we have a dream or desire. I mean, the idea was really scary for me. And then all the while, at the same time, I also am having this really strong desire inside to share the way that God is working in people's lives. And so I say that because I've had the privilege to be witness to so many testimonies and stories over the past few years through the work that I do in anti-human trafficking and the running ministry that I'm a part of, and just friends of mine that have had amazing things happening in their lives. It's like I was being inspired and blown away all the time by what I saw, by what I heard, and like the transformations that I actually saw in people that I knew. And I kept thinking to myself, this stuff is too good to keep to yourself. Like, people need to hear other people's God stories. And so then a few months ago, I'm talking to one of my friends. I'm driving, we're talking. She has this incredible God story, and I hang up with her feeling so inspired and in awe of how God worked in her life. And I literally say out loud in my car while I'm driving, holy crap, God, you are amazing. Like, people need to hear this stuff. So fast forward, and then not long after that, Hollis calls me, asks me to join her with this podcast. And of course, I'm instantly terrified, but I know that I need to say yes. It was like God was flashing a billboard right in front of me. And so here we are. And mind you guys, I had told no one about the thoughts that I was having about the podcast, not even Tom. Like nobody knew about this. I had never even said anything to Hollis about it. So it really is crazy when you think about how it evolved for me and it evolved for her. And then we both came together on this. And so really my feeling is that, oh my God, Pod, this is God's project. It's really his podcast. He just chose Hollis and I to be the vessels that he wants to use to bring his stories to the world and ultimately bring people to faith. It's not about her and I at all. We just get the privilege to partner with him, and we both said yes. My number one hope for this podcast is that we can help people understand the difference between knowing about God versus having a personal relationship with God. And my desire is that the stories that we'll share on this podcast will either strengthen the listener's faith or it will prompt them to want to explore having a deeper connection with God in their own new way. I want to share God in a fresh new way, in a way that hasn't been done before, in a way that makes people want to either invite him in for the very first time, or it makes them want to invite him back into their life again. And let's be honest, the world is tough. And the times that we live in right now are very uncertain. They can be very scary and very stressful. And I know for me, I can't imagine going through life right now without my faith and my relationship with God. And I want that for people too, so badly. I want for people to feel that no matter what the world is throwing at them, no matter what external events are happening, no matter what their current circumstances are, that they are not alone, that they can walk with God by their side every moment of every day, and that they are deeply loved by him. And because of my own personal journey of faith, I really have a heart for people that are just going through the motions, either out of obligation or because that's how they were raised, or they're fearful to try something new, or whatever that reason might be for them. My life has completely been changed by being in a relationship with God and walking with him in my everyday life. I'm able to experience him working in ways that I never did before. And I so desperately want that for everyone. I want that for you guys that are listening to our podcast. And as a Christian, it's our job to share the gospel. It's our job to share the good news about God with others. I'm just so honored and grateful that God chose me to be a part of his mission in this way. And then I get to do it with my good friend Hollis. So in closing, just a few things we just wanted to remind you all. Hollis and I, we are not theologians or experts in the Bible by any means, but we are two women who are very intentional in our pursuit of growing our relationship with God through the Bible. And we want to help you guys work through that as well. We are not professional podcasters, so please bear with us as we learn how to produce this podcast. Some of the production quality might not be what you're used to compared to more seasoned podcasts that you listen to. We are learning as we go. We are figuring it out, and we will get better at this over time. So please look past that stuff, you guys, as you're listening. We don't want you to miss the messages in each of the episodes. And each episode story may not exactly resonate with you every time, but keep listening. We've got stories from all kinds of people on lots of different topics each week. So I know that you will be able to connect with many of them. And if certain people in your life come to mind as you're listening to an episode and you think they'd benefit from hearing someone's story, please share it with them. Our vision for this podcast is that it's going to spread and grow organically from you guys, the listeners, from person to person, friend to friend, shares on Facebook, sharing in social media. We really want our listeners to be sharing it with others. So please share if something resonates with you. So you guys, in closing, we are so grateful that you joined us. We are grateful that you're on this journey with us, and we cannot wait to serve you each week as God uses us to share other people's stories. Welcome to the Oh My God Pod. Thank you for listening to the Oh My God Pod with Hollis Moore and Lori Spiker. We want you to know that God desires a relationship with you, just like a trusted friend.
Our desire for you is to find hope, inspiration, and connection through today's story. And we hope that you will experience God in your own unique way too. Stay connected and share your stories by joining our Facebook group, visiting our website, ohmygodpod.com, and of course, subscribing to the podcast. And remember, oh my God is awesome.